So we were both racing mountain bikes and then traveling around in our teardrop trailer. So we were constantly having people ask about this product and expressing a lot of interest in it and desire to use a product like this for their mountain biking and camping experiences, because it lets you set up this base camp and then have a vehicle to go to different trailheads and not need to pack up camp every time. So in some ways, we sort of knew that there was interest in this. I don't know that we knew how big it could grow at the time, but it felt like, okay, well, we'll at least break even here. You know, we'll build a few and we'll sell a few and then we'll kind of see how it goes. But a year and a half in was probably the critical moment of saying, okay, this isn't just something that's like a hobby anymore, but has the legs to be a business that sustains our livelihood as well. But we have to take this leap of faith. Somebody has to go on.
This is Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio with your host, Tyler Jorgenson.
Welcome out to Biz Ninja Entrepreneur Radio. I'm your host, Tyler Jorgenson, and today we get a twofer, and we get to have the honor and the pleasure of having both Jen and Chris Hudak, the co-founders of Escapod Trailers. I'm going to let you, before we get into this, decide which of these two people holds 2 gold medals from the X Games. And we're going to break down their story about why they came up with this business, how it's going, and all the ups and downs along the way. But welcome out to the show, Jen and Chris.
Thanks. So happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is great.
Yeah, excited. All right, spill the beans. Who's the X Game champ?
That would be me. Sorry, Chris. He's still not as good on skis as I am, but you know, he has other redeeming qualities.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Not many people are, and that you can be great and not earn gold medals. So that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's true.
Well, by my standard of great, which is not the same as your standard of great.
You will learn that Jen is the most competitive person that you've ever had on the podcast.
Yeah, I always say there are people who absolutely want to win. I just don't like losing. And it's a very different type of competing, right? Like if you're going for blood versus just going to, you know, I don't want to not make the podium. So, you know, you guys are coming up on almost 10 years, right, of having Escapod. And so let's zoom way back to the beginning. When was the moment you guys first realized that you were entrepreneurs and you wanted to do something on your own?
Entrepreneurship. Yeah, I think this was before the idea of Escapod. For me, I was always driven to seek that life. I was always, you know, I was in the restaurant business early on, working through college, and I was like, well, man, if I opened a restaurant, it would be like this, you know, and if I was in charge, it would be like this. And my brain always kind of went there as to like, how would I optimize? How would I find my customer? How would I deliver a product that was truly special and reached a niche? And it was always that. And then my work ethic also was very much in that manner as well. I always found that I really sought more out of the work than most people around me. That's not hard to do in the restaurant industry now. Sure. but I always found that like I was driven to make it better, you know, every day I came. And those are some of the reasons, but I think for me, it's like you also have a acceptable level of risk that you carry too. Where you're willing to say, okay, you know, like, I'm not going to take a paycheck for a little bit, or I'm going to risk it all on this idea or this passion. Yeah. You got to have a little bit of that too.
Speaking of a risk tolerance, you started this in your mother-in-law's garage. So, Jen, what was that like, you know, coming up with an idea and starting to make it real?
Well, extremely fulfilling and really fun in the earlier days. Then things get hard later, but, you know, the in mom's garage part, this was like, Chris came to me. We had been traveling around for the last year and a half in a teardrop trailer that Chris built in our single car garage in Salt Lake using hand tools and supplies he got from Home Depot. And he came to me with this idea. He's like, I want to turn this into an actual company. So we started brainstorming on different names, and I was on the tail end of my ski career at that point, and I knew what it felt like to really manage your destiny, to be the person who was solely in charge of the outcome. And I saw that little sparkle in his eye and this just desire to have something that was his own. He mentioned the restaurant thing. He had wanted to start a couple restaurants, had different ideas for it. So I saw this, really seamless transition from that to, okay, we're going to do this in the outdoor space with these trailers. So really it was just a matter of being willing to tolerate longer hours and have this be the activity that we were doing after our day jobs for a while. But it really was just fun, and it was really satisfying to do it together, and in a way that just unfolded pretty naturally.
I love that. Chris, you built the first one as a prototype, but like for yourself before this was even a prototype.
Totally.
Why are you out there building something new instead of like what was missing in the marketplace? What did you see? What was the gap?
We're lucky enough to be in Utah. And if you've ever visited Utah, it's like it's the land of natural beauty. I mean, 5 national parks, tons of public land. I knew what we wanted out of camping was to get away from the crowds, to get out there. We wanted something that we didn't have to store somewhere else, something that could be ready to go at our house on a moment's notice. And so with all of these requirements that we had, we went on the market and I started looking for things. And at the time, there was maybe 1 or 2 teardrop manufacturers, but it wasn't what it is today. And the trailers sure didn't look like what they look like today. And we had an idea of exactly what we needed. And the only person that could fill that was us. And at the time, I don't think Jen knew that I could, build a paper.
He was a guy that worked in restaurants, not someone who knew how to build things.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. Yeah. Sometimes you don't know what you can do until you do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up restoring cars. Okay. So I restored a 1968 Austin Healey Sprite when I was, 17. I had multiple motorcycles I built from the ground up. Jen had never seen this side of me at this point. So you got to save a little bit. When in a new relationship. And
sure.
It's funny to look back now on what we're able to build. I'm no longer the best builder in our organization. We've got 20 fabulous people out there that build a much better product than I could ever even have dreamed of those days. But we get it done, and that trailer's still around.
That's really cool. Yeah. So there just wasn't something that you could pick up and go with and really be rugged enough to do where you wanted to go.
That's right.
Yes. It seems like a lot of the market for many years was just the car camper that was just going to go stay on the road, right? And do
That's
something
right.
Simple.
Jen, more of a vintage trailer.
Yeah. Right. And so Jen, when he came to this idea, you guys start doing it. How did you find your footing in what each of your roles was going to be?
To be honest, that was pretty natural. I think it's one of the things that has made our partnership great. And also one of the things that has made it really challenging is that we come to the table with very different skill sets. I'm much more customer oriented and sales oriented, marketing oriented. And Chris was really that tactical, hands-on, operational, and production guy. So early on, it was like, okay, well, I'm working in a marketing company and I can handle building a website, does not compare to what we have today. It was very much hacked together, but I could do it, and I could run our social media. I could interact with the customers and sell to the customers, and Chris could handle building the trailers. He could handle the vendor relationships, ordering materials and getting everything we needed. So that was pretty easy early on. And then, pretty much remained the same, but got a little bit more complex later. And then figuring out how to offload what maybe wasn't our core area of expertise to other business partners and then employees that we have in the company.
What would you say is the first moment that you guys realized you had something that wasn't just a hobby or a fun idea, but it was actually going to take off as a business?
I'm going to take that one too.
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like that moment in some ways happened before we started the company, right? Inadvertently, Chris had built us a prototype in 2014 and we were using it. We were using it around customers or potential customers that were really the demographic that we would want to sell to in the long run. When I retired from skiing, I decided mountain biking would be my next competitive pursuit. So we were both racing mountain bikes and then traveling around in our teardrop trailer. So we were constantly having people ask about this product and expressing a lot of interest in it and desire to use a product like this for their mountain biking and camping experiences, because it lets you set up this base camp and then have a vehicle to go to different trailheads and not need to pack up camp every time. So in some ways, we sort of knew that there was interest in this. I don't know that we knew how big it could grow at the time, but it felt like, okay, well, we'll at least break even here. You know, we'll build a few and we'll sell a few and then we'll kind of see how it goes. But a year and a half in was probably that critical moment of saying, okay, this isn't just something that's like a hobby anymore, but has the legs to be a business that sustains our livelihood as well. But we have to take this leap of faith. Somebody has to go all in. So that's the point at which Chris left his restaurant life and restaurant job. And then we brought in some business partners that were able to go and also work side by side, Chris, to really start growing the company. So there were those two kind of critical moments, but I think it, you know, in hindsight, I would absolutely do that again, right? Like build the prototype, get it in front of people, not trying to sell it, but just getting that feedback where there's no ego involved, no attachment, you know, nothing really to lose. And then you can make it better once you're actually ready to hit the ground running.
Absolutely. In almost 10 years now, or I guess past 10 years from when you built the first prototype, I'm sure there's been lots of ups and downs. What was one of the biggest challenges that you guys faced and how'd you overcome it?
I think it's still a challenge today. I think founders often fit this role of like whack-a-mole, where new challenges present daily and you figure out how to adjust to them. I think as founders, it's one of the things that really makes us really strong is we're able to quickly identify issues and go attack them. I think, today it's sales, or tomorrow it's production, or the next day it's quality, or the next day it's customer interactions. And you don't have an organization with enough maturity to have process built around every aspect. And one of the things that I think plagues organizations or early organizations is you get something taken care of. You're like, okay, I'm going to move on to the next. And as soon as you move on to the next, you're back to taking care of the old thing that you took care of already. Yeah. And you're like, until you have that maturity of like, this is how we do it, you're still always moving around the organization to go solve issues or to help in certain areas. And I think that that's definitely the disease of the founder. And that's why it's hard for founders to often transition into more mature roles like CEOs in more mature companies. And so I think that is and will continue to be one of the harder things in my role and transitioning my education and my learnings to as we not only are in 10 years, what does 20 years and 30 years look like? And am I still the person to lead the organization then?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you guys, I mean, you start making a few things in a garage. You got a big location now with, like you said, 20 people out there building. Yeah. It's a very different thing to manage yourself than to manage others.
100%. And you got to keep learning. You have to be the master of every part of the organization. It's all of a sudden you're learning accounting and finances. All of a sudden you're learning how to build trailers. All of a sudden you're learning how to market, and you're like the master of, maybe meta, right? And like getting into like advertising and like, so you're just having to be knowledgeable to be able to make decision-making and then weigh decisions of the organization with each other, right? Like how do you weigh putting resources, operational resources, cash or people to one thing versus the other if you don't understand what the outcome is?
Yeah, absolutely. Where's the craziest place you guys have seen one of your trailers end up?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, the picture, I guess not everyone is probably watching this, but the picture on the wall behind us is a pretty good one. I think this was this in
Capitol Reef?
Okay, Capitol Reef. Super remote location, like right on the edge of a cliff in, a Grand Canyon-esque looking environment. So that's pretty cool. We've also seen our trailers cross through some pretty deep rivers, which is really cool to see. And like getting deep into mountainous forest terrain, which is really cool. What do you think?
The new Baja. So it used to be like, 10 years ago, everyone would go down to Baja, do a big Baja trip.
Yeah.
That's still amazing. You should still do that. But the new Baja is the Alaska Highway. Mm-hmm. And so tons of people making the journey up through the Alaska Highway into Alaska and making it to the Arctic Circle. We had one customer who worked in the oil industry, and he actually stayed for 3 months in his trailer in the winter in the Arctic Circle. And so I'm talking like -20. And you have a picture of the trailer's covered in rime ice. And you have a picture of his wife inside in a t-shirt. And it's just like, it's so perfect. It's so perfect. And I think
that story got crazier when you said, and his wife. I'm like, all right, some guy just chilling by himself. No,
and a 10-pound dog. Little dog. It's amazing. I think our product creates aspirational adventure. Somebody who says, man, I've always wanted to, and then they attach an Escapod to that adventure. And I think that's one of the cool things, the craziest thing we've ever seen, man, I don't know, like, is that crazier, or is, somebody who hasn't camped in 20 years, who's 85 years old, who goes to a national park here in Utah and stays in a campground, is that crazier? Like, I think they're both amazing. And I think they're both aspirational. And I think that they're both accomplishing the same thing, which is pretty amazing.
Very cool. So you guys came to me because there was a press thing about, athletes and things like that, which I love, your background as an athlete and being a competitor, right? Wanting to win. Jen, I know, we'll have a half pipe off sometime here and see if Chris can win now. But who is like a dream ambassador or celebrity or somebody that you would just love to be a part of the brand?
Oh my gosh. I feel like totally caught off guard right now.
That's the goal. Got to hit you with those. Who is it? That?
Jimmy Chin.
Okay.
You know Jimmy Chin?
Nope.
Phenomenal mountain athlete, but also an incredible documentarian, photographer and videographer. And just his name in the outdoor industry is very much equated with the epitome of like extreme adventure. And I feel like what he could go and not only do with an Escapod, but the story that he could tell and the adventures that he could inspire among others would just be really cool. So that's my final answer.
Solid answer. You weren't off guard that long. You came back.
I panicked for a minute.
Yeah. What you guys mentioned while we were chatting that there's some new stuff coming down the pipeline. What's coming up new for Escapod?
We are really excited about this one. So our customers, you get the idea that our customers are aspirational. We're mountain bikers. The reason that we built Topo 2 specifically, the original trailer specifically, was to go mountain bike, to go race, to be doing activity. We are not by nature lovers of RVs. And I think that our customers are the same, right? It's like they are not by nature lovers of RVs. They don't go on the weekends to the big RV store and just go walk around to go look at things. And so we are releasing the first ever mountain bike specific trailer, which is the Topo 2 MTB, built by mountain bikers for mountain bikers. We'll be releasing that in person at the Sea Otter Classic in Monterey, California. Huge mountain bike show. And it's going to have all the goodies that the Topo 2 has: composite trailer, off-road capable, but going to have some things that are really specific to mountain bikers. So full-on pro tool set, a swing-away hitch, a new bike rack from Kuat called the Ion that's made for 2 e-bikes. It has 2 batteries in it for e-bike charging. I mean, this thing is just awesome and perfect for the mountain biker.
So, you guys are building this really cool new thing. And I love that you're kind of in a way also getting back to the roots of where you started.
That's right.
And I think that's neat where new can be the thing that really ties back to the beginning. But, as entrepreneurs, as creators and founders, we don't always get things right. When was a time where the audience and your market, like they were the ones that showed you what was something that you needed to do or something that was the next step?
I mean, you just had this happen with the solar panel. So just trying to make decisions about improvements around the trailer. And we've had a similar solar panel on our trailer for a while. And one of the things that we've always talked about, well, I guess this is actually proving that we got it right, but we thought we had got it wrong.
Okay.
Proof that we got it right. But leveraging, those insights from the customers. So we had this panel that would travel on the back of our trailer and could charge the trailer while you were driving, but then it was removable once you got to camp. So you could kind of position it and optimize it toward the sun. And we were thinking that maybe the removability wasn't something that they were wanting to use and just questioning that assumption. So Chris reached out to customers to figure that out. He's thinking, okay, maybe we can give them a solar panel that will improve charging 25%, but isn't removable and doesn't need to be carried on the trailer in this way. So that was kind of the gut instinct going in. And then all the customer feedback said, for the most part, we like the removable option. That trade-off wouldn't be worth it to us. So we kind of proved ourselves right and wrong there. What's one where we've
I think the founders, my natural is, because I'm a founder and I build something from scratch, and I think you're always like, I know what the customer wants. Right. And getting out of finally getting out of that of saying we have 1,000 customers now, let's ask them what they want is a transition, because when you're first starting and you're first creating a product and you're finding a hole in the market and you're doing it's all from your own desire or your opinion of what the market is. And to be able to leverage your current customer base with how they're using it. I mean, my customers camp in trailers far more than I do. I run a business, and I'm like, we started because we love camping. It's probably one of the things that we've lost most. And it's like our customers are camping over 100 nights a year. And you're like, how are you using it? And that is so important in identifying the journey of the product.
Yep. Yeah, I've had that same thing happen where I've started a business that was in something that I loved, and it actually took, even though I was in the space of what I loved more, I was now doing what I loved less often. And
totally get it.
And that's tough. So, over the time, I'm sure you guys have had to kind of fight that and battle with that. How do you guys make sure you still find time for each other, for yourselves, and get out there and take care of that?
It's very hard. We recently bought something called a skylight calendar. And I mean, we literally have to schedule and calendar time for us, because not only do we run a business, we also have 2 kids under 5, and kids take up a lot of time, and we love them dearly, and they're going to be raised to be great human beings someday. But they're a lot of work. And if we don't prioritize it with our work schedules and demands of work and kids, then it makes it really hard. And we are camping less now than we were before kids and before this business. That said, I think we would be camping less if we didn't have an Escapod to go and take our kids camping in. I mean, the convenience that it provides families is just, it's incredible. Everything is ready to go when you need to go. And you have a comfortable place for your kids to be, but you also get to prioritize your time spent in the outdoors. So they're not hiding away and watching TV. You get to be outside and sitting around a campfire and making your meals outside and enjoying fresh air and vitamin D.
Yeah. Most people don't think of a teardrop trailer as a family activity, Right. So how, now I'm looking at a picture that I understand the solution, but for those listening, how does a family go out and enjoy a teardrop trailer?
When our family was smaller, so just to give you an idea of our family size, we've got 2 kids under 5, like Jen said. We also have 2 dogs as well. So usually there's 6 beings traveling with us. So when our family was younger, we would have both kids and a dog sometimes sleeping inside the trailer. That's on a queen size bed. Those are some really great memories, not great night sleeps, but great memories. And then as the family has gotten older, so meaning our oldest is now 5. This is my pitch to all the fathers out there. When we are camping, I'm number one. It's like dad is finally number one, and mom, like at home, it's like mom, everything. I love camping in a rooftop tent with my 5-year-old. There is nothing better than laying down next to your son and making shadow animals on the roof of the tent, of like teaching him the things that you learned in a tent. And so the expandability of the Top 02, not only the queen size bed on the inside, but also the rooftop tent that can house the kids is really amazing. And as our kids get older, like my 2 sons are going to sleep in the rooftop tent, and we'll finally have the trailer back. And that will be an evolution of how our family camps. And I'm really excited for that, because they'll be making inappropriate shadow puppets on the ceiling, and I think that's really amazing core memories that I have, maybe not in a trailer, but I have growing up as well. So
yeah, I think camping is such an amazing thing, because it just removes so much of the noise, and just allows people to really grow and expand and reconnect to really the roots and the core of who they are, which oftentimes is being silly. And that can be great.
That's right. And you have to remember that too, because camping's hard. It's hard to pack up. It's hard to get on the road. We try to make that easier, but it's still difficult. I mean, being in a car and going to Sedona for 12 hours with 2 kids is difficult, but it's worth it, man. It's so worth it.
Growing up, I was much more of a backpacker than a car camper. And I always kind of looked down at the RVers and the car campers. And I feel like this is like a nice in between. It's like, okay, there's some comfort here, but this is still tough and cool.
That's right. That's right. And I still have a tent. I still camp many, many nights in a tent every year. I still enjoy that part of it. It's a different tool, but it's definitely still part of the toolkit.
Yeah. I'm a under the stars as much as possible. Right. Yeah. So took the kids out to Moab to Joshua Tree a little while back, and, they all went in the tent. I just slept out and just, got to enjoy it. What are some really exciting things now? Jen, I know you've kind of shifted and you're less involved in the day to day, but you're still helping oversee the vision. What are some big things down the road in the next 5 or 10 years that you just really want to see happen in the business?
Well, we definitely want to see more people in Escapods. So, COVID was crazy in terms of what it did to demand for the RV industry in sort of a temporary moment. And we're on the way to kind of find level ground again in terms of the production that we can facilitate here, as well as the sales demand and interest in our trailers. It allowed us to create the Top 02, which really broke the mold in a lot of ways in terms of what you could create in a teardrop trailer. But it did also drive our price point up. So I think that there's this desire to figure out how to deliver a lot of what customers learn to expect with Escapod, which is this really clean fit and finish, this beautiful design aesthetic, really thoughtful features and integrations that just make using the trailers really easy, but also to deliver that at a price point that is more accessible for a lot more families in America in this economy. So that would be one main thing. And then the other piece, which these 2 things sort of go hand in hand. Once we are able to deliver something like that, it will allow us to have more resources that we can really start doing a lot more community events for Escapod owners and campers and outdoor enthusiasts to just really drive that community and excitement, and make sure that we're always staying connected to the things that inspired us to start the company in the first place.
Awesome. Those are great initiatives. As we wrap up here, I don't think I have to remind you guys that business isn't just, that's not the only thing in life, right? Business is about helping fund your life so you can live. What is one thing on each of your personal bucket list you're going to do in the next 12 months?
12 months.
It's a short window.
It's got to be short, or it's not. It's not going to happen. We got your your daylight count or skylight calendar, so it's on the calendar.
All right. Our friend just pitched us his 40th birthday plan, which was to rent a lodge out in the Wrangell St. Elias region of Alaska, and to spend a week at the lodge, skiing and with a private chef and flying into different areas of the range. That would be amazing, because that would signify that both Jen and I could be somewhere together, maybe even without kids, and skiing together. And that would mean that taking a week off from Escapod and giving a little space here, that sounds like a great goal.
I love that. Jen, same question.
Can I just have the same answer?
You absolutely can have the same answer. That's totally okay. I wanted you to have space to have your own answer, but if it's the same, that's okay too.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot tied into that, because we've stretched ourselves growing a company, growing a family, and sometimes that comes a little bit at a toll for things in your personal life. So our relationship, our household finances. So some of my dreams are like really blah and benign, like making sure all of that is in a really healthy place. So what I love about the dream that Chris just shared, and why I probably also share in that, is that it would also signify that we had achieved those other things, because we wouldn't be able to do it if we hadn't. I think that goal is something that's going to serve to just really get us oriented in the right direction. Yeah.
And it's a good goal. I think sometimes things don't happen unless they have to. And so getting away, enjoying time without the kids is important. You can come back home and make inappropriate shadow puppets with them, but awesome. Right. I really appreciated getting to know you guys. Thank you for sharing with us the story of Escapod. You guys can go check them out at escapod.us. They're on social media and stuff as well. You will absolutely be inspired towards adventure by checking out their social media. And to all my biz ninjas, it's your turn, whether you're listening, watching, or tuning in, to go out and do something.